Beyond is the name of the show that we are doing, and this is the 496th episode of it. My name is Max Scoville, and I'm here with my good friends Brian Altano.
Hello.
Andrew Goldfarb.
Hello.
And Marty Sleva.
We just got back from Baby Cake's funeral.
What?
Oh, rest in peace, Baby Cakes.
All right, okay. So before we get into things, I want to just point out this is the week before E3. We're gonna have a very big, exciting show full of E3 predictions and all kinds of stuff. And normally this is the part of the show where I'm like, here's the stuff we're gonna talk about. Here's the stuff we're gonna talk about. It's E3 predictions. It's coming up very shortly. But first, some housekeeping. E3, if you're unfamiliar, is the time of year when all the video games come together and they hold hands and then they kiss and then they fight to the death. And we're going to be there covering it, so be sure you're keeping track of how much we're doing at E3. IGN is going completely nuts covering it. If you're going to be at E3, we're going to have a meetup. I think we've got like 40 hours of programming or something, but basically IGN.com/E3. Also, we are partnering with Twitter, so all of our stuff is going to be streamed on Twitter. We're all on Twitter individually. I'm Max Scoville. He's Agent Bizzle. He's Garfep, and he's McBiggity. If you don't follow us, you're not a good friend.
Yeah,
why do you
come
listen
on,
to our
man, get it together.
Why do you
You're
listen
missing
to
so
our
many toy pictures?
adult radio programs? Anyway, yeah, let's get into it.
I am so excited.
Are you stoked?
Yeah.
I'm so excited for E3.
This is one of this. I haven't even had a second to be like, this is actually happening.
Yeah.
And it's also like this really cool time of year where I don't feel like as many things have leaked as usual.
Mm-hmm.
Things feel slightly
They'll
under
come.
wraps. Or
We've got
at
5
least-
days.
Yeah,
I know.
yeah.
All the Teamsters are going to be tweeting pictures of like their.
That's exactly it. Like all
Just
the
opened up a
Instagram
box
shots.
full of PlayStation 5s. It's me, the Teamster.
Guess where I found Tony Hawk? Underground.
No,
Yeah.
I mean there have been deliberate announcements, but I don't feel like there's been enough leaks yet, and that's going to happen in the next few days.
And that's the
so.
exciting thing is companies like Ubisoft getting stuff like Far Cry 5, getting it out there early. Sony already announcing some of the games they're going to have, which means like they're trying to keep the actual surprises under wraps. Which
Yeah, and
is
it's like
super
if they're
sick.
announcing that stuff now, what do they have for the show? You know, like it almost like it's always funny because when people announce something in these like 1 or 2 or 3 weeks ahead in V3, like there's sometimes I never know if it's quite like, oh, like let's get the smaller stuff out of the way so we can bring the big guns to E3, or if it's just like kind of spreading out like multiple, beats or whatever it is.
Specifically, Sony's E3 press conference last year was probably my favorite press conference ever from a presentation perspective. Renting out that like beautiful hall and making it feel like you were at a legit award show, or like a real a theater
The orchestra.
We're always talking about the VGAs and the Spike Awards and all this other stuff, and like how do we make video games feel like they are legitimized by mainstream modern culture. And I really feel like Sony's conference did that last year with a full orchestra and just the presentation behind it. Just didn't feel like a bunch of guys in like suit jackets and t-shirts rambling about nonsense.
And it was also like breakneck speed. Like it was, we didn't have time to catch our breath when it was like, here's Spider-Man. We're like, oh my God. And like, here's Death Stranding. We're like, what? And like, Resident Evil 7 is coming and it's PSVR. Like it was just like, we were breathless.
I wonder if this year is just following up on that. If it is like more of those same games.
So on that note, we do actually have some details on what they're doing. That's confirmed. I think the big thing is obviously they kind of showed their hand. I mean, they showed a lot of the stuff that they're working on that we maybe won't see, but we do have confirmed games here: God of War, Spider-Man, Uncharted: Lost Legacy, Days Gone, Gran Turismo Sport, and more, I guess. Expect less talk, more games at E3 via awesome piece on PlayStation from Time Magazine. One of their head guys said, as for the experience awaiting PlayStation buffs when the curtain lifts at Sony's E3 media event, live streaming from the Shrine Auditorium. Okay, blah, blah, blah. Sean Layton says to think of it less like a press conference than a software showcase. The crowd will only have to suffer, I think, an aggregate of 90 seconds of me, he jokes. And in the middle will all be the games.
I love this so much. I feel like everyone needs to take note of this. I've said for years that I really like Nintendo's weird changing format of what a direct is, because I think it minimizes the amount of just janky, broken human speak of like a man coming out and babbling about graphics processing and just and be like, and what we plan to accomplish next is over 400 consecutive players at once. This is merger.
Merger.
Squirkles is coming to PlayStation 4 this fall. It's not working again. Like we make fun of these guys every year because it's awkward as hell. Well, so get rid of all that, you know?
Well, so often, the big question is, who is this for?
Sure.
And it's, I think they realize the people who really care and who are going to evangelize this kind of stuff are, people like us and people watching at home who care. They want to watch, they want to see new video games. They want to get excited about them. And obviously this is sort of like, this is tied into the whole, sales and marketing life cycle. But the people who are in like the marketing side of things, they're, probably pretty jaded, or they get excited. But like, why not have fun with it?
Well, the audience is jaded, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, the audience now through social media has used E3 press conference, justifiably so, to capitalize on snark. And they are given that opportunity millions of times a minute at E3 by awkward dudes in suit jackets and t-shirts.
And just to be clear, like you're including yourself.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've made a living out of this garbage. Oh, I love it. But I think it's just like you pull away from all that and you cut to gameplay and you show off cool things and you make people really excited. I mean, this all, like, you dig back in time, Sony is sort of the kings of the awkward press conference when it comes back to Genji 3, massive enemy crabs, and real historical battles, and real-time weapon switching, and Ridge Racer.
Well, they're no Konami when it comes to the press conference.
Yes. Well, they're rest in peace.
Do you remember that year when Konami was like, we've got our whole live show ready to go, and then it was just like, you could just skip ahead. Like,
Oh, that weird.
It wasn't actually live. They were just, you put it up as VOD, but it was like streaming. at
That
the same
weird
time, like-
adaptive dance Cirque du Soleil show. That
yeah, but also they were like, I'm bored of this part. I'm going to jump in. You're like, this isn't what how do I spoil this for myself? Like,
I expected more from Konami.
yeah. Anyway, like this is I like where we're at right now. Just going into kind of Sony's show because we got kind of blown away last year.
Yep.
So it's interesting because we've gotten blown away a couple years in a row from a couple of events. And when I start thinking about it, I'm like, man, all those games I was super excited about, a lot of them aren't out yet. Like Sony conferences have had Kingdom Hearts 3 and Final Fantasy 7 Remake and Spider-Man and Death Stranding,
Shenmue.
God of War and Shenmue and Days Gone and GT Sport.
And not
so,
only are they not out yet,
Dreams.
a lot of those games we know specifically won't even be anywhere near. Like we found out Shenmue won't be here.
Yeah. Yep.
We found out that Final Fantasy 7 Remake HD Deluxe
and Kingdom Hearts 3,
miniseries.
they've said like they're coming in the next 3 years.
Yeah.
Which leads me to believe they won't also be.
Dude, I'm pretty sure that I've like done reactions to Kingdom Hearts 3 E3 trailers for like 4 different companies at this point. Like it's it's a tradition at this point.
I kind of like the idea of this year just being less about it's hard, right? Because they're in this impossible situation where if they don't show anything new, if they just show gameplay from all the same games as last year, but now we see gameplay from them.
Yeah, and we get release dates or whatever.
Exactly. And see Spider-Man, God of War, and Uncharted and Last of Us and all that. Like if they did that, people would complain that it was nothing new.
Right.
But if they show a bunch of CG trailers and logos and nothing else,
You're
then
totally
people
correct.
complain there's no substance.
Yeah, I think that's like the very weird, tough line that they have to walk in that, like, you can either sit there and say, hey, I'm sick of all these nonsense announcements that don't actually mean anything, or you can be like, I want tangible evidence that things are going to be playable this year or next year. But you need a mix of both because you need to walk out of that room being like, there's wonder and surprise and delight coming from all these companies. But at the same time, like, I don't want to see another spinning logo for something that I'm not going to play for 4 years.
And like last year was the perfect, I feel like the God of War reveal was that perfect balance of like, it's like 10 minutes or so of gameplay, maybe a little less than that, but it's like, it's enough gameplay that we understood what it was, but it also wasn't, like, I still have like almost no idea what's going to happen.
Well, because they've also, that game's just gone off the grid since then.
Exactly.
And obviously it's going to be up back here. But yeah, I feel like we're going to see extended looks of all those things we got teases for at both last year and at PSX.
Yep.
I'm glad to, by them doing that, and Sean Layton saying like, hey, I'm going to be on there for 30 seconds. The rest is going to be about games. They even got number stuff out of the way, which I always hate when any company, no matter if it's first party or third party, puts up a bunch of slides.
Yeah, I mean that's again, it's that who is this for? And it's like the people who are going to care about that aren't the ones who are going to cheer for your presentation. They're the people who are going to be sitting in a boardroom at some point who you can show a PowerPoint.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the old way. That's why E3 used to be so heavy with those, because E3, I think, a long time ago was more for investors, and now it's just as much for consumers.
Dude, it's a trade show that just opened its doors to
the public.
15,000 fans. Like it's gradually turning into a Comic-Con.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. And that said, like, I always feel like kind of weirded out when a company starts trotting out. I mean, I love hearing about numbers. I'm infatuated with them every single month when the NPD stuff breaks. But to waste any time at a press conference, and Sony hasn't done this in a while, to be fair, it just feels odd. It's sort of like, because it's like I'm a fan of your stuff, but I'm not financially invested in any way. So I don't really cheer when
You're
Sony.
a fake fan.
I guess I'm a fake fan. I mean,
Well, I'm not a shareholder. Like,
no,
yeah, I'm
it's
a fan.
Having a massive install base for a platform is fantastic because it leads to more first and third party support and more games, and it means that by and large the system keeps growing. But I sit there being like, do I got to check? Like,
Yeah.
It's like finding out a baseball team made a bunch
Sure.
of money. I'm like, I don't care.
But some of the stats they released this week were interesting. In
Yes.
that, over 1 million PSVRs sold.
Yep.
Which they're the first one to give that number. So I imagine that's if Oculus or Vive would have hit 1 million, that we would have heard that.
Yeah.
So again, I can't.
Let's Can we dig into this?
Yeah.
This is all from the same Time article, which again is like, it's very smart to take your kind of your dry information and dump it into a Time write-up the week before E3. That's super duper smart.
Yeah.
But they said 1 in 5 PlayStation 4 sold is a PS4 Pro.
So yeah, since launch, so
That's
20%.
exciting. That's impressive.
Yeah.
PSVR again has sold 1 million units. PSVR owners have purchased 5.25 million PSVR games.
So 5 per owner. Right?
Yeah.
which is a fantastic attach rate.
Yeah, I like this one. PSVR owners play an average of 25 minutes per
Yeah,
session.
before getting
Yeah.
a little seasick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's I threw that in
no
there
word
'cause
on the refractory period there.
I threw that one in there because I find it to be the most fascinating of all the stats. I look at the way I played Horizon or the way I blacked out and lost 5 days of my life to that game in the best way possible versus, putting on that, like, I think that like PSVR, there's that 5 minutes of like, all right, so I got to take it out. I got to make sure my move controllers are not like, dead because it's been a couple of years. I got to put the headset on. I have to like clear out the goggles on the inside. There's like a minute or two you have to let it like warm up because it gets too foggy. Like there's a lot of weird, stupid little idiosyncrasies when it comes to PSVR. And then you go and pick a game and then you jump in and, you make sure you're comfortable. If you're sitting or standing, if you're playing Farpoint, you're, collaborating, all that crap. And all of a sudden, like you're playing a game and 15, 20 minutes later, it's done. Or you finish a level and maybe you want to check your phone or check the outside world. So I think that like VR still has that weird barrier, right? Like you don't want to jump in there for 2 or 3 hours, which I think is a good thing. But it is interesting because I don't feel like the majority of games are being designed around this playtime.
No.
Like there are still games that like Farpoint you could play for 2 or 3 hours in a row, right? I don't think people are playing a game like that for 25 minutes, but I think that more games need to lean into the fact that if that's an actual stat, then that's what games should be.
Yeah, I mean, Resident Evil, the fact that you could play that whole game in VR is kind of like how like cars have, it's like 160 miles per hour on the dash. It's like you're not going to drive it that fast. You
Yeah.
wouldn't mind.
You
Like,
can.
yeah,
Yeah.
you could if you wanted to, and you're brave.
You're going to jail.
But no, I mean, it's worth noting that like VR is it's more intense. It heightens the experience a whole lot. So to be like, yeah, I just want to do a quick 25-minute session, whatever, makes a ton of sense. I think this is a weird comparison, but it's like going to, you can go to wine tasting, or you can go to a distiller or like a brewery and have like, I'll have a few beers, a few different wines, and try different things. But like if you take like that approach and go to like a distillery or a pot farm, and you're like, yeah, I'm going to just get completely ripped out of my mind. Like you kind of want smaller doses of something that is stronger in essence, So I hope we see more like weird small
Side note,
experiences.
this is a weird tangent, a weird place to put this. Well, like, I don't really understand the judges on the Cannabis Cup. Like, you're like 19 strains in. You're like, oh, this is very
I don't know how that works.
artsy.
Yeah.
It's like, no, dude, you're high as hell.
Yeah.
The hell's wrong with you? You're
No, I
not
don't
you're not
know how to-
qualified for this.
Yeah, like I can't think of an event where you go there and I'd go in there and be like, I want to go home now. Anyway, so back to the PlayStation.
Sean Layden made some comments on Switch's success.
No, there's one quote in here from Sean Layden that we should read about
yeah.
PSVR stuff.
This is great. This addresses the fact that we haven't seen a lot of promotion for PlayStation VR. He says, we'll have a freer supply in the marketplace in 2017. We got to a point around Christmas where you would be hard-pressed to find VR anywhere, so we dialed back some of our promotional activity at that time because we didn't want to be promoting a platform for people to find out they couldn't get it. I didn't want to create more unhappy customers.
You hear that, Nintendo? You dolts.
Okay, so that's this is to
that
me
a
this
bad
is
word?
smart. This is smart spin.
Yeah, I
Yes.
100% agree with you.
Yeah, I think this is a smart spin.
I think this is extremely smart spin. I think that they just underestimated.
Saying that.
Well, like, I mean, so Jeff,
Smart spin.
I'm sorry we didn't talk about the Cannabis Cup for 45 minutes.
oh, that really? Maybe
How
you've
high
been
are you that you thought that was
Yeah, I was gonna
45
say.
minutes? We were talking about
Look at
cannabis.
that camera's already at an hour and 14 minutes.
You don't need that. You don't even know what you're pointing at. Jeff Keighley tweeted out today a story about Vince Gilligan is working on a Breaking Bad experience for PSVR, and I retweeted it being like, "F yeah, this is gonna be great, so cool." And somebody responded to me being like, "I can't wait to not play this because I still can't find a PSVR." So I do think that this is like a legit issue, and it does sort of fit into their narrative of not selling as many as I think we thought. Like it's a weird chicken and egg thing.
Yeah.
Like they're touting these numbers, but these numbers could have been higher. Mm-hmm. If they, it's such a weird scenario.
If I'm being honest, I think VR. We just did a big First Friday last week, and
What's First Friday?
First Friday is when on the first Friday of every month we do a tour of the IGN office where like 300 people came this time. It was really cool.
Cannabis tasting.
And there was a cannabis tasting afterwards. But no, there was tasting's not the right word. But no,
totally eat it.
somebody kept asking a question. I think in 2 of the different sessions, people asked about VR and like when are we finally going to see VR take off? And Terry Schwartz, who's in the office, was like, for the last 4 years, we've heard this is the year for VR.
Right.
And it's funny because I think in the back of my mind, PSVR was kind of the chosen one where it was like, it is so accessible. And the fact that there are a million out there is awesome. But like, there are 50 million PS4s, more than that now? Like, I think it's still such a small fraction of that overall install base that like, I think we are so slowly getting there. And by the time these are available, they're probably going to be iterating onto the next wave of hardware.
That's the issue, right?
So it's they're just in this weird spot where like, I don't know, like I do think there's demand among that niche that wants them. They could probably sell another million or whatever it is of PlayStation fans who want to get into it more. But I don't think you're going to start seeing those games that are like long and robust and that are pushing that experience time until there's enough of an install base to make it worth developing for.
Yeah, again,
and I don't think that
weird-
can happen until they're better at manufacturing.
That chicken and egg
Also-
thing, right?
I
Yeah.
also don't think that's a thing people want necessarily.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting the way they're sort of, whether it's intentional or not, trickling out PSVRs. It's kind of the same things Nintendo's doing with the Switch, where launching hard. When did PSVR? That was like last fall, I
fall,
guess.
fall,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, that's a typical time to launch something to be like, oh, yeah, it's a Christmas present, whatever. But I mean, launching the Switch earlier in the year, I thought was kind of odd because it was like, it's almost like you get the early adopters on board and then you have them as this like organic. Like they're basically advertising it by having it in the wild.
Yeah.
Right.
You know? And I don't know how that works with PSVR. Like maybe you go over to your friend's house and you're like, oh, cool, I want to try that. But it's also, I mean, I guess if you get it in people's homes, they can verify that it works and it's cool.
It's weird because when you launch hardware, like when Switch launched in Q1, you actually make it look like your launch lineup is weaker than it is because you're missing all the annualized games. So nothing that's all the Call of Duties and Battlefields and stuff, even if they wanted to come out, those games don't come out till fall anyway. So they couldn't have just come out 6 months early in March. Whereas PSVR almost might have been at an advantage to launch off cycle because then it doesn't drown in people making a $400 purchase decision instead of buying Call of Duty and all that stuff.
And that's exactly it, right? Like I think you have to look at PSVR. It's obviously connecting with 1 out of 50 hardcore PS4 users, but it's not really connecting with the general population, right? I like the casual gamers that bought into something like the Wii, and I think we're going to see buy into the Switch. Like when you heard about the Nintendo Switch in January, you found out about Mario coming in the fall, and I think with PSVR, you had those titles at the initial launch, and I think Farpoint, we have that quote here that they'll be talking about a number of other PSVR titles at E3. I think Farpoint sort of kicks off that second wave, but you don't want to spend $400 on something without knowing it's future-proofed because it's not a quick casual. That's not the kind of money you drop on something that you only use for a weekend, right?
Well, it's also so hard to do. Like, it's hard to show what it is to people. I think you can show people
VR does
looking
not
stupid on a
traditionally
head.
not show well.
Exactly, and like that's the thing. Like I think like you're totally right that it hasn't caught up with the mainstream, but I think it does once they try it.
I know.
Like so many people love it once they actually try it, and it's such a hard thing to
Which
explain.
again is like Switch too.
Yeah.
Which is Sean Layden commented on Switch saying that it was quote a great success for Nintendo and said that it definitely is what the fan base was waiting for. And then he sort of talks about how he sees it as a complementary console, as a second console.
Yeah.
And he says that quite often there are two consoles, and one of them's PlayStation, one of them's Nintendo sitting side by your side. So I feel like he welcomes the competition, which I feel like is especially because whereas Sony and Microsoft are, they do share probably 70% of the library together. Like that's not going to be the case with.
No, I don't
like
think
we've seen so far. Haven't they announced? EA's announced what's at EA Play, and one of the things is FIFA 18. And one of the things is FIFA for Switch.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing where it's like FIFA 18 is coming to Xbox and PC and PS4, and then FIFA for Switch is probably going to be the last gen version.
Yeah, with some modes
updated
lobbed
rosters.
off.
Yeah, and I think like it's it's such a funny spot to watch that happening again because it does feel like history repeating itself.
Yeah.
I think Switch is such an interesting thing because it's a non-factor. I don't think it's necessarily a competitor yet. Like it's not like I think that's actually a really smart way of looking at it as like a complementary thing.
Well, there's a history of Nintendo and PlayStation having these weird sort of standoffish quotes with each other when it comes to direct competition. Nintendo in the past were sort of like, we're making a toy and this is what we're doing. Sony in the past have said with in comparison to the PSP and the Nintendo DS, they were like, the Nintendo DS is in the handheld gaming ghetto and we're not. And I was like, that's bad.
But
So I
I
don't
feel
know.
like that's in the past. Like now you see photos of Shuhei walking around taking pictures at
With
the
that detective
Switch
cloak.
event.
Yeah, that was the best. No, this is really cool. I agree. I think these two systems complement each other very well. With one of them, you have these, 4K AAA experiences on your big TV, and one you're playing Mario on something the size
and you're
of
playing
a
it on a
phone.
plane too.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
Yeah.
And with the way the Vita's dying down or dying out, like it's good to see handheld living so strong, and it's good to see traditional consoles kicking ass. So.
Hey, where traditional consoles are gonna kick ass is
No, we still got 2 news stories. Shut up.
Oh.
Do we?
Max, what were some of the other final tidbits from?
almost said it.
Yeah, this just in. Andrew's a big Dorcas. Yeah, it said that.
Oops.
Yeah,
Yeah.
He said
That's
it right.
in the
He said it.
Time magazine?
Time
Said that?
magazine. It sounds like a bad time for
Jim
both
Ryan.
Yeah, no, I'm just kidding. Also, if you get mad when I say something sort of mean to Andrew, we're just joking around. We're having-
Oh yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, real weird in the
people got
comments.
real defensive.
Yeah.
to me. Yeah.
If you don't like that, maybe you should read our new piece in
Also-
Loser Monthly magazine.
It also makes me laugh because you're like literally the sweetest human being I know. So the idea of you bullying anyone is ridiculous.
Liar. Anyway, Jim Ryan said in the timepiece on backwards compatibility. Sony has in recent years devoted resources to bring a handful of popular older titles to PlayStation 4. The better part of the library is lost to time, and for now it seems like that's where it'll remain, saying, quote, "When we've dabbled with backwards compatibility, I can say it is one of those features that is much requested but not actually used much," says Ryan. And I was at a Gran Turismo event recently where they had PS1, PS2, PS3, and PS4 games, and the PS1 and PS2 games, they looked ancient. Why would anyone play this?
I still want to play it. And also judging
Oh,
by
are you gonna go play the PS1 version of Gran Turismo?
not of Gran Turismo, but I want to be able to download PS1 games on my PS4.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that's different, right? I think the true backwards compatibility, like what Xbox is doing, where you can like put a disc in, is
Right.
incredible. Like that is to me like that I can see wanting. I think the digital stuff, parsing it out and adding new features and stuff like isn't the worst solution. Like I think what they've done with like the PS2 on PS4 stuff is cool. Obviously, it would be better if it was just the entire library. Like that would.
Is it some weirdness with like odd and even numbers? Like we can get PS2 games on PS4 games and PS1 games on PS3. But
And exactly, and like Vita is secretly an incredible way to play a bunch of PS1 games because you can just download them.
I have a bunch of Square RPGs in there.
Yeah, and then PS3 I think had like a really good obvious library of a bunch of that stuff too. Like it is like that's the part that's weird to me is more of the PS2 stuff. Like I see what they're saying though, where it's after a certain point, like when you're talking about, hey, would you rather wait another 2 years for the PlayStation 5 and have that R&D go to backwards compatibility, or would you rather just keep up with what's happening and let them do anniversaries and do 30th year collections and things like that? Like,
Right.
I get like. I'm in the same boat as you. I would rather play this stuff. I would rather see full backwards compatibility available. But it's also like it does seem like business-wise it would be a really stupid priority for them to have.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? We don't really know what it takes. It seems like it's consistently difficult to make that a thing that you can't just drag and drop a game on your console, right? And everyone's having this problem. I mean, aside from Microsoft, but to me, it seems like it'd be cool if there was a small team working on this kind of stuff just off to the side. I don't think it has to be an either or, like that R&D gets moved off the PlayStation 5 and now it's like
There are only
a year
8
later.
employees at Sony.
Yeah, exactly. How's your Suikoden? You ruined it for everybody. But I think this quote is a little presumptuous because, like, I mean, yes, I'm not going to personally go back and play Gran Turismo 1.
Yeah.
Because that seems insane to do this year. But there are other games from that era that I would like to play. I think with PlayStation specifically, it's weird because they have a different backwards compatibility issue in that a lot of their games are some of the earliest 3D games ever made, which don't necessarily age as well as, say, like some 16-bit classic game or an 8-bit classic game.
And it does make me wonder, like, I don't think it would, like, obviously, if you see Gran Turismo 1 and you're like, oh, this looks awful, you're not going to cancel your pre-order of GT Sport. Like, one has nothing to do with the other. But it is like, it is really interesting because, like, you can use that.
I've forgotten how much I always hated that ugly old game.
I want to meet that guy so I can block him on everything.
But I mean, it does, like, it's, you can do the opposite where you spin into like a positive message.
Right.
Like Gran Turismo is like one of only 2 franchises that's been around for that long, you know, on all of the pieces of PlayStation hardware. So I guess not Vita. But I think it would be really cool to like build that into the marketing for GT Sport. Like maybe that's when you do like your 20th anniversary collection stuff. So like it is a bummer to see him be like that dismissive of the entire idea. But I don't know, like I'm torn on it because I also like, to me it's frustrating if you do hear that they're spending that many resources on that and we still can't change our PSN names, or that there's still not like reliable network infrastructure and things like that, like you're totally right that those are different teams, but I just like, to me, backwards compatibility, as much as I personally like it, I think should be pretty low on their priority.
I feel like they are looking at the stats on it, which I wish they would just release to the public, and then we could all go like, oh, you're right, no one's using it. I mean, they're saying specifically like everyone requests it, no one's really using it.
Yeah,
So-
and like this is one of those things where it does feel like I wish they had a really good way to gauge interest. Like obviously Sony doesn't need to do a Kickstarter or anything, but it's like it would be really interesting to see them like somehow just like pull the actual like hardcore fans and what they actually want. Because like in like statistically, if whatever 50 million people own a PS4 and very few of them are using backwards compatibility, a lot of those people are people who only play Madden and Call of Duty every year.
So
anyway.
keep this in mind that you've got people who want to play old games, and some of those people are like, oh well, I guess I'm out of luck if I can't buy it on PSN. And some people are like, okay, well, I'll figure out how to get an emulator running on my Android device. And then some people are like, you know what, screw it. I'm going to buy a CRT at Goodwill and go find a PS1 on eBay and track down the original copy. You know what, screw it. I'm going to get an import version. Like some people, like Caleb, who works here, has a CRT TV set up in his bedroom with a Sega Saturn so he can play shmups the way they're meant to be played.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's how
and
it
that's
goes.
awesome. I love hearing stories like that.
But I think it's a kind of an odd gray area for people who are like, I guess, casually nostalgic for older games.
Well, especially when in the same breath, I'm like, I want backwards compatibility in these old games, and then I'm like, don't have enough time to play all the amazing games that come out in
exactly.
Q1.
Yeah.
Like I still haven't touched Nier and Neo. And
I think there's A, the convenience of it, and B, just sort of like that good feeling you have. I mean, like, you walk into somebody's house who has a ton of books, right? They're not going to pick up every one of those books, but they like knowing they're there. Like, I would like to know that all the Metal Gears are on PS4.
Yeah,
But they're not.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know how many there are. One and a half, like Phantom Pain and the
Ground Zeroes.
Ground Zeroes. Is that it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then PS Now, you might be able to get Guns of the Patriots.
Yeah, like that sucks, you know, and like there isn't a place for them, and it's also like the release strategy for, you know, anniversary collections and stuff like that. There's no consistency across the board with that.
Man,
Like,
I wish-
sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you don't. Like
Vita could have just been the backwards compatibility machine.
I know,
That was so cool.
I know.
Anyway.
Now PlayStation Now doesn't even work on it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, Sean Layden also talked a bit about Japanese devs returning to PlayStation, and mentioned Resident Evil 7, Neo, Nier Automata, Persona 5, and Final Fantasy 15, saying that's super important for us. I think a lot of Japanese developers lost their way chasing the mobile games yen, if you will, but they're coming back to console in a major way. And speaking of, we'll have some big announcements at E3.
Yes. Also-
in precise vein.
By the time this is going up, you'll be happy to hear that the IGN First this month is focused entirely on the Japanese gaming industry. So you can look out on a bunch of cool stuff from our visit to Japan.
That's a piece you and Caleb are putting together, right? Based on your trip.
Several.
It's several pieces. Yeah, there's
What goes up tomorrow? If this podcast goes up tomorrow.
then so far we've Platinum up. We're talking all about the future of Platinum games and some of the stuff they're working on and what they want to do next. And we will have many more, some of which I can't talk about yet until after E3. But
awesome.
We'll also have Atlas this week, and there's some cool stuff coming.
What games have they made?
They made
On Simulator 2017.
Yeah.
They gave you an excuse to put cats all over your desk.
There you go.
Whatever
dog.
that blue animal is.
Her name's Morgana. Also, his name's Morgana.
It's also, yeah, anyway.
No, this is really cool.
Is that an impression of my voice?
I love the idea of like PlayStation reaching out to all these developers, being like, "You've lost your way chasing the mobile games again. Come back home." To
Well, and how
PlayStation."
cool is it that Persona 5 is number 2 in MPD? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, like, sorry to talk about Persona again, but seriously, like Neo has sold 1.5, or I mean,
Nier
Nier has sold 1.5 million copies. Like, it's like there's so many. It's really exciting seeing that resurgence a little bit.
Yeah.
Resident Evil, Bloodborne,
These games rule.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's all happening.
It's good to see Japan kicking ass again.
Yeah, right. All right. So on that note, I think it's about time we started getting
speaking
into
of games
our.
kicking ass
We're gonna-
again.
We're gonna segue because we're gonna break this part out as its own segment, and you can watch it on our YouTube channel or vice versa. I don't know. We're always plugging weird stuff. Point is, if you're not subscribed to YouTube.com/IGN Beyond, you should be, because that's where we put up our little videos and stuff. Marty, are you like mouthing stuff over
Yeah, I'm
there?
doing mouse stuff to Andrew. It's
Doing
fine.
mouth stuff. That's real weird. Anyway, what do you guys predict's gonna happen at E3?
E3 predictions.
E3 predictions. We're doing E3 predictions. Let's do it.
Okay,
All right.
you want to go down the line and then back and forth with one?
Yes,
Okay,
that's a good idea.
I'll start with one of mine.
You're confusing me right out the
I'm gonna
gate.
do a positive one.
How dare you?
I think we're going to see big showings from both God of War and Insomniac Spider-Man game, and I think we're going to get release dates for both of them. And I think one is going to be this fall, and one is going to be next spring.
That's a lot of predictions. Okay, hold on.
That's several predictions in one.
So 2 new games with release dates.
Yeah, I mean these are games we saw.
Okay.
And games they've confirmed are at the show, but I think both will be dated, and I think one's going to be in the fall and is going to be Sony's flagship fall title, and then I think one is going to be in the spring.
Which
I think
Spider-Man?
God of War is the fall,
Really?
and I think Spider-Man is the
man.
spring.
I totally don't think either one of those games is this year at all.
I don't think
Yeah,
so.
well,
either.
it's a good thing that's my prediction and not yours,
yeah.
Buffalo
Well,
Bill.
we're allowed to slam dunk on your predictions.
All right. Yeah, my prediction is I think we're gonna get another Days Gone trailer, and I think this one's gonna be much tighter and more focused on characters and the world and the setting, and actually being like, here's who you're gonna be playing as in this big huge game, because we got that weird sort of character reveal trailer initially, and then we got that one where he's mowing down hordes of zombies, and they're like, meanwhile, check out how HDR works on this 480p stream you're watching on your phone. You're like, okay, fine.
Yeah.
I think that's a great prediction. I think that's going to be their big first party fall game.
Yeah, I think that's their fall game.
I feel like that's the.
I mean, that's the game we saw the most of last year.
Feels the most done.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's more in the trailer. Like I would expect that. Honestly, it's not in my predictions, but like I think that's going to open the show and probably be like a 15, like a substantial.
You think Days
demo.
Gone will?
Yeah.
What game do you think will open the show? I don't know if everyone said if that's
That's coming up.
Okay.
I'll get to it.
Okay.
My prediction number 1 is Bloodborne 2. I think this is not my official prediction. I do think softly that it will open the show, and I think we're going to see a boss fight. I think we're going to see something played live. I don't think it'll be a tone piece. I don't think it'll be like a dude dragging a sickle down a hall. We're going to see some real.
I can get behind that. Do you think it's from software?
Hell yeah.
Okay.
And I'm going to scream. And the cool thing about that is that I don't care about what happens afterwards. Really don't. I'm so happy about fighting those skeleton horses again that I don't
You're
really
not gonna
care.
care. It's gonna be the very first thing of the conference. You should probably care for the remaining 90 minutes. Also, E3 is like just starting.
Nope. I'm gonna have the Uber app on my phone. I'm gonna hit.
Are you gonna go home?
I'm gonna go to the airport. I'm gonna go home.
Brian, you missed 30 of your live show appointments.
I'm getting out of here. I want to fight that skeleton horse. Talk to the doll lady. Talk to those weird plants that go. La, 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 and then I'm going home. That's
Man,
it.
if it wasn't from people,
Bloodborne
would
2.
lose their mind.
I still think it might not be from.
Who do you think it's gonna be? Konami?
I'll get my
Castlevania.
little bad boy.
My prediction bums me out, and I want to be wrong. I don't think Dreams will appear in any capacity.
I thought you said
at
Bubsy.
E3. My prediction is Bubsy. No, I want to be wrong on my own prediction. I don't think Dreams is going to be on stage at all. No sizzle reel, no mention of any kind.
What?
I think they're going to hold it.
For what?
They've held it this long. I think
For
at this
TGS?
point, I don't think E3, if they're holding it this long, either I'm wrong and they're going to have it and do something very different with it and maybe link to VR or whatever it is, or I think they're holding it for a better place, like a PSX or a fan event or something like that.
Wow.
So
It's a ways off.
that goes into my prediction, which is not only will Dreams be there, but they will confirm that it is a free to download PSVR game for everyone and that it is available now.
Wow.
Not now isn't like now, but now isn't when they say now.
Why do you say free to download?
I feel like this game has been in development so long that they want to tether this with all 1+ million people who have a PSVR. And I think it's not that it's only PSVR. I think it's like Resident Evil 7.
I mean, I forget the runtime. I forget the actual run of show of the original PS4 reveal, but this might be the first party PS4 game ever shown.
With those weird like
because they
grungy boys?
demoed it at that original before it had title, obviously.
That's
but
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I want what you said. I still think like the time for Dreams was when PSVR came out. I think if this had been a pack-in with PSVR, that would have been a really good opportunity. But dude, don't forget, like they said there were going to be betas. They said there were going to be all these things because they can't release the game until they populate the tools for people. So it's like, to me, like none of that has happened yet. I still can't imagine it happening, but I would love for you to be right.
That's not what I heard. I didn't hear that from anyone.
Really?
No, that was just a prediction.
Oh.
Okay, so that's all right. Now we're
Andrew,
going all out of order.
It's always the time for
No, we're
dreams.
fine. We're fine.
We're going all crazy times.
Just look at you.
All right. It's on you're I guess you just
did-
I'm confused because you jumped from number 1 to number 4.
Oh, don't worry. Don't look at mine.
okay.
Just
The whole
focus on
spreadsheet.
your own.
You also you suck at these bullet points. You did bullet points and you did numbers, but you did the numbers by
Yeah,
hand.
yeah.
Terrible.
You
Real
can't,
bad.
You're never making the doc
Don't
of the show
do it.
again.
All right. Enjoy never having a show again.
Hey, I do it sometimes. You just get to work before me. Anyway, I predict Uncharted: The Lost Legacy is going to open the show.
Ooh.
I don't know. It just seems like kind of a
Yeah.
very safe bet because they're like, they want to remind people it's out there. They're going to have everyone's attention on it. And it's going to be, I mean, they did that at PSX and everyone's like, Tomb Raider? No. Last of Us? No. Oh. All right, and
Yeah.
I think it's also it comes out in. Did we have a date for that? It's early
It's
fall, September,
August. End of August.
Okay, so it's pretty soon.
We
You
date
think
Enterprise.
Uncharted? You think
Bloodborne 2.
Okay,
For
you
opening
think's gonna
open the show?
Yeah, you think Days Gone's going to open the show?
He said Bubsy.
He said Bubsy.
Yeah, I think Bubsy.
I think Spider-Man's going to open the show.
Oh, I think that's a really good. Yeah, that's actually. I think
Spider-Man is pretty
I think
cool.
you're right.
Yeah.
Ooh, there's some good stuff going on.
No,
All right,
I think you need a new game to open the show. You need a brand new game.
I mean, that's the God of War had such an incredible opening.
yeah.
last year.
Yeah.
That's why I say Bloodborne 2. Brand new game.
Bradburn?
Old game with a new number. New horse.
all right.
new skeleton.
The horses are moldier and
Getting on that
mop
plane.
looking earlier than ever. Okay, Brian.
It's me? Okay. I think we're going to get a Last of Us 2 gameplay reveal. Not a weird teaser acoustic guitar solo concert. We're going to get an actual gameplay reveal. No?
No way.
What?
No,
I don't think so either.
No, I think we're going to see footage of some weird dudes getting stabbed in the neck with the old shards.
All right.
I think we're
That'd
seeing
be
it.
cool. I mean, I would love if Naughty Dog's so funny because like they can turn stuff around with ungodly speed. Like the fact that they've made 4 Uncharted games and The Last of Us in such a small window. It's like, okay.
5
yeah.
Uncharted games. We're counting the new one.
Well, yeah, I guess that's
Also,
true.
yeah.
Yeah, so it's like I think that like if anyone could do it, it would be them. It just feels so early.
I mean, that being said, like we were all surprised that we got both Lost Legacy and Last of Us 2 announcements at
totally.
PSX.
at PSX. Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, mine is going back to that VR conversation. I think that there will be some kind of big push for VR to get you to buy it, whether that's a new bundle or a price drop or just some kind of new SKU for VR, but not like a redesign. There's not going to be VR Slim. They're not changing the hardware at all.
Yeah.
But I do think you'll see some kind of like major incentive to get it.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really good bet. I think they need to do it, and yeah, of course, man, anytime.
Are these bets?
Are we having like a moment?
A little bit. Our
Anyway.
kinship.
See?
Wow. It's
Never end your dreams.
you know what? Neither of you have gone on a first date in a very long time.
Maybe I'm on one right now. You're not.
Yeah. Anyway, Marty, what's your next prediction about the video game trade show?
So to counteract Brian, I think that not only will we not see or hear anything about Last of Us 2, I don't think we will see or hear anything about Death Stranding either. I think both games are going to literally not be mentioned whatsoever at the show. I get the feeling Last of Us 2, they were like, hey, it's in development, but they're going to want people to focus solely here on Uncharted, obviously because it comes out in a couple months, and I don't think Last of Us is coming out until next fall, maybe.
Do we know if
earliest,
Kojima's
yeah.
at E3?
I mean, Jeff Keighley's there, so he'll probably be there.
Probably wanna hang out.
I bet you Kojima's at E3. I don't know if Kojima like production is at E3. You know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
He totally seems like a guy who wouldn't miss an E3.
sure. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I want to be proven wrong, but who cares?
Yeah, I think it doesn't make any sense to show off Last of Us 2 when you've got Days Gone probably coming out sooner than that, and
Yeah.
also
And
a new Uncharted. So it's
Yeah.
like the two kind of pieces of that. It's just kind of, I think it kind of clouds the messaging. What did I say? I said some kind of tie-in nonsense with Spider-Man Homecoming / Spider-Man game, whether that is a pre-order bonus, costume DLC, or an appearance by Tom Holland being like, oh, Spider-Man's coming to theaters and to home consoles very soon. It's gonna be grand.
If Tom Holland was on stage, like something
Yeah.
with that demo, I think that'd be so cool.
Yeah.
I'm worried because I think they've said like the core of the game isn't like MCU or anything, but I could totally see them doing a skin.
This
Yeah.
costume DLC.
Yeah,
Totally, yeah.
But also it's a Sony Pictures movie. It's a Sony game. It
Yeah.
makes a ton of
Yeah.
sense for them to lean into that because it's a Spider-Man movie. People like those.
And also like
Yeah.
kind of use the Sony platform to even plug the movie. Like
I mean, at the very, very least, I can see them doing some kind. Like way back in the day, games used to do this somewhat often because there were so many movie tie-in games that like get a ticket when you buy the
Yeah.
game or whatever it is. Like,
Yeah.
something like that.
what
There
if you
would
get
be
the game
some
when you
kind
buy
of
a ticket?
marketing
Think
thing.
about that.
Whoa,
you buy a $10
that's a way
ticket,
better
you also
deal.
get a $60
That
video
movie
game.
comes out in like a month, doesn't it?
Yeah, think about
Okay,
it.
that game's not coming out. They're not going to be like, the game's out and there's a free ticket in the game, the movie you go see.
Yeah, that's
It's not going to happen. It's not. You're not connecting
I'm
those
gonna
dots.
back up and say that's a pretty solid.
Yeah, I mean, it might coincide with like the Blu-ray release.
Yeah.
No. They're gonna say, "Hey, here's the official Spider-Man the game cereal, and if you buy it, you get the video game as well
You
as
think
the
there's
film."
now you're putting a cereal in the mix?
Yeah, so
Okay.
you buy a $3 box of cereal. Is cereal
Predictions
$3?
episode is falling apart.
All right.
Falling apart.
Brian, what do you
Speaking of like exclusive tie-in stuff, I think that Battlefront 2 is going to connect very exclusively with. Are you all right?
Yeah.
That rough first date.
Yeah, exactly.
It's gonna connect with a lot of PlayStation stuff exclusively. Last time around, we saw some cool stuff, including the PSVR mission. I don't know if we'll get anything like that this time around, although I would absolutely love that because the TIE Fighter thing or the X-Wing thing was incredibly cool. But I think we'll see some sort of possible exclusive story mission or maybe a multiplayer map or a character or a hero, something like that. I don't think it'll get in the way of like, I don't know, say like Soul Calibur did with its Star Wars stuff, where like you get Yoda and you get Darth Vader. But I look at the way Lego Star Wars released on PS4, and there was an exclusive mission about how C-3PO got his weird right arm. It's from cranking it.
Oh my.
Oh my. Heavens.
I mean, I see.
That's stop the show.
No. So I totally think this isn't one of my official predictions, but I think we're going to see a lot of big fall and spring third-party games on stage at Sony. Like we know they have a partnership with Battlefront, with Far Cry, with Destiny 2, with Call of Duty, and with Red Dead. And especially Destiny 2 and Call of Duty, like they don't have their own stage to go to. So I think we're going to see both of them on Sony stage. Whereas like, Battlefront will definitely be at EA. And I have to imagine Far Cry is definitely going to be at Ubisoft.
Yeah.
Red Dead, I don't think is going to be at E3.
I think the thing with Battlefront is it's so close. We know when it's happening. We know the release date. We know everything about it, mostly. But we haven't seen it actually being played.
Sure.
So I think there's enough to... You could pull like a, Call of Duty for a couple of E3s where like, all right, Microsoft gets this level and Sony gets this level. It's very rare that you see a crossover.
If I'm remembering right, in 2015, I think EA showed multiplayer at their conference, and then Microsoft showed single player. Or maybe it was vice versa for Battlefront 1.
Battlefront 1.
Oh, Battlefront didn't have single player.
I mean, it had
No, but I mean, they showed like different mission types. Like in other words, they showed like.
So we know at EA Play, they're showing off the Theed map. The episode 1 map.
Yes.
EA's already announced that. So it's going to be episode 1 heavy, like the Assault Theed's the
Like, I guess-
city, right?
Yeah, with the boomers.
Yeah.
I guess I can just see them doing.
Marada Kadu.
I guess I can just see them doing something along those lines of basically splitting it between like on its own stage. Obviously, EA is going to sell its game, but I
Maybe we get single player on Sony and multiplayer.
exactly that's what I mean.
Like that?
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
All right. What's your prediction,
yours?
little boy?
I don't think we see Bloodborne 2. I think maybe you see a new From game that's exclusive to Sony, but I don't think it's going to be Bloodborne 2.
Why did you use your prediction to poop on my prediction? This is
I'm
the
just
worst
like crossing
first
them
day.
out furious.
This is the worst first day. That'd be really cool if there was a different, like, as much as I want Bloodborne 2, if it was like Armored Core or a new IP.
And that was
And then
the
you guys get me for the whole E3 then.
that was the exciting thing about Bloodborne when it came out, was that it wasn't just another Dark
Yeah.
Souls, and it's like it's a Souls-like, obviously, but I think like putting a different spin on it is cool.
What if you just give him Castlevania?
That's what I'm saying,
Oh,
man.
Castle Vanille
Castlevania.
from
Yeah.
Final Fantasy 13.
Castle
Absolutely.
venereal diseases.
So my second to last prediction, going back, is I do think Bloodborne 2 will be there. Suck it, Andrew.
Wow, we're
Knocking
doing
this
it.
back and forth.
But I do not think,
I'm leaving.
But I do not think it's developed by FromSoft whatsoever.
What?
I think that's Sony Japan Studios.
Oh, wow.
Internal.
Are you worried about that?
Also, that was literally my prediction verbatim last year, and I got it wrong. Yeah.
I thought about like because we have like the scorecard from last year on here, and I thought about going back and reusing some of mine because I still totally stand by
really?
that Batman thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Sony's going to reuse a lot of their announcements last year for this year. So run it.
All
What
right.
do you got, Max?
Where am I? I'm all mixed up here.
You're
Okay.
under the word Max.
That's right. I almost all screwed up because it was Marty Max. Anyway, a new limited edition PS4 Slim bundle that is either absolutely gorgeous, totally hideous, or some combination thereof. And there's all sorts of discourse on the computer about it.
Like
Okay.
that.
I think it could very easily be Red Dead. Like maybe they don't have a whole bunch of Red Dead stuff to show off, but they're like, hey, there's a Red Dead bundle coming out.
Ooh, horse PS4?
And it's like, it looks like a bale of hay, or like, it's just got like a layer. It looks like Woody's boot. I don't know what it's going to look like. It just looks like an old barn.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
it's either that or it's Spider-Man, or maybe it's Destiny 2. Like just one of those things where they're just like, we put a logo on it and you get the game inside the box and it's fine.
I think something's definitely coming because there was that gold one that leaked, and I can totally see that being part of a line of like
Right.
equally
Yeah.
weird colors, if nothing else.
There's like an Argyle one, and everyone wants the Argyle one, but only ironically. And then you're like, should I buy something for
You mean like themed
$400
after the character from Die Hard?
I was literally asking if it was Argyle, the nice little limo driver from
the
Die Hard.
socks.
He has his headphones on, so he can't hear the Germans falling from the sky.
Oh,
That's true. Yeah.
Great movie.
Christmas in Hollis.
R.I.P. Alan Rickman.
Brian, you're up.
Number 4, I think we're going to get a trailer for that game company's new game, and I think it's out this fall. I think they said it's about sharing, and all we saw so far are those 2 candles touching.
Your whole leave the city and get in a plane because you're so excited thing. That's me if they reveal that game company's new.
Oh, really? Yeah. Cool. No one's working E3 this year.
Sharing and candles, my favorites.
What do you guys think? Possible?
I think they
hope so.
I think possible that's this fall, possible all of that. I think they want to distance themselves from Sony because they're very much not only in that ecosystem anymore. Like when this game comes out, they've said a million times it's multi-platform. Like
yeah, they did their 3-game deal with them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So like everyone assumes it's probably mobile or something. Like I would have to assume that's where you find the biggest audience, which is what they seem to like.
Mobile.
No, it's only available at the gas station. Mobile.
I don't even necessarily. Yeah, exactly. It's a mobile exclusive. I don't know that it would be mobile exclusive. I think they're probably just making it for everything.
Don't share candles at the gas station.
To Max's point about PSX, that Uncharted trailer that faked everybody out, and it's like, what is it? What game is it? Everyone's guessing. I love when they do that. That's like one of my favorite things about Sony press conferences.
Oh, we all thought it was Tomb Raider.
I think we're totally going to get that for Sucker Punch's game. I think it's going to either very heavily seem like an Infamous game and then be their new IP.
Like a wizard comes out and they're like, oh, it's in medieval times.
Exactly.
It's not Infamous at all.
Or because of all the rumors about them working on a new IP, I think it would be funny if they are just working on an Infamous game and they do the opposite. Like make it seem like something very different and then reveal it's Infamous.
What if they open the show with just like Spider-Man gameplay and then Spider-Man takes off his mask and he's Kratos?
Dude, that would be the best PlayStation Also Battle Royale trailer ever.
And it says God of Web. And everyone leaves. They give tomatoes out to throw at the TV.
All right.
You guys mentioned Tomb Raider multiple times. You think we'll see some Shadow of the Tomb Raider stuff? I mean, we got that got leaked a while back.
Yeah.
And it's been.
I wouldn't be surprised if we see a tease, but I don't know where it would be. Like it seemed. I mean, obviously, last time they leaned initially with Microsoft.
Yeah.
How'd that work out?
It didn't
Not
seem like it was a
great.
great idea. So I feel like this is going to be multi-platform, day and date, whenever it's released.
I could see same kind of thing. I could see them on Sony stage specifically distance themselves. It was like when Titanfall did that. Like Titanfall 2, they wanted to make the point that like, hey, look, we're on everything now, and the way you do that is by being on the stage of the opposite of where you're.
For some reason, I think because Rise of Tomb Raider was announced at
Gamescom.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I would say Gamescom.
No, I think it was announced at E3. It was announced at E3 2014.
Oh, the
exclusivity was
yeah,
announced.
exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we're at my final prediction.
Ooh.
I think the last 2 years we've seen Rocksteady games on Sony stage. 2 years ago, they showed the opening of Arkham Knight with the first-person
The
Joker.
diner and stuff. Yeah.
Or the Scarecrow shot some people.
Yeah.
Then last year we had Arkham VR.
Oh, right. Totally forgot.
So I think we're going to get a short tease. I don't think it's this fall or anything for whatever Rocksteady's next proper
Superman
console game is. Superman, Justice League. I still want Harry Potter. I put
And now I want a
Dunkirk.
Wonder Woman one.
I think WB's making a Dunkirk movie.
You think they're gonna make a Dunkirk game?
Maybe.
They're making a
I
Call
really
of
don't
Duty.
like the way you guys say Dunkirk.
Why?
Really?
Dunkirk?
What's wrong with Dunkirk?
Stop saying Dunkirk that way.
Oh, guys.
I gotta take a Dunkirk.
God.
So
All
many
right.
people died.
All right. So yeah.
R.I.P. Alan.
Don't put that on me, all right?
All right. I think we're gonna get a Nino Kuni 2 trailer that's punctuated by borderline incoherent stylized text over a black background.
yeah.
Yeah,
Sounds like
yeah.
Nino.
It's gonna be so
Swap
cute
that out. Also, it could also
Ninu
be,
Nana?
it could be also that, or maybe Kingdom Hearts, or a Final Fantasy thing, or something. I just think that maybe some JRPG will have like text in it that just shows up, and you're like, I was trying to see the game, and they're
Well,
just like,
that's over there. Yeah.
there's like some weird word art. And you're like, all right,
Yeah, I would love that because, like, especially like punctuated after like God of War, Last of Us, Uncharted, like Days Gone. Like, there's a lot of sour pusses in that batch. I want to see a what was it? The pan flute that.
Can you make that noise again?
no, it's I only did that once.
Oh, that was a bad noise.
Brian, what's your final prediction?
I'm gonna piggyback on Goldfarb's, as I should on a first date. Hey, on your PSVR prediction about the price drop, and say that every PS4 SKU will get a price drop this fall to combat Scorpio and whatever Switch is doing. Safe bet, I know, nothing too crazy there, but I think you'll get cheaper PS4s this fall.
Yeah. So PS4, PS4 Pro,
Yep, PS4 Slim.
VR.
Nugget. We'll throw that in there.
Yeah. Ooh. Andrew, you didn't write down a fifth.
Yeah,
one.
I forgot to write down a fifth one. But what I'm going to say is I think that Sony, because I think what Sean Layden said is right. I think it'll probably be focused on games. I do think that well, of course it's right because he runs the company. But I do think that at a certain point they'll bring out Geo or whoever to talk about indie games and things like that. I think that they will announce a major PC exclusive game now coming to consoles and being on PS4.
Like PUBG Battlegrounds or something?
Yeah, like something like that. Something like a major Steam indie game that is now available on consoles for the first time and only on PS4.
Do you guys remember when they first showed off the UI for the PS4 and the username was Daisy 100?
Vaguely.
Like DayZ, like the zombie game that has kind of been in beta for a million years.
Yeah.
I don't know. That'd be weird if they were like, hey, guess what? But then, of course, they've also got Days Gone.
Daisy Gone.
Who knows?
Daisy 100 Gone.
Yeah. But yeah, those are our predictions, our E3 expectations, and what we argue about in our spare time. I asked a bunch of the community what they thought. A ton of people jumped in to say Sucker Punch's new IP, including Bean Dip Bro and Eric Kalunga and Brian Kravitz. Sean Clerkin in our Facebook group said he thinks it's going to be a sci-fi third-person adventure. Matthew Lee Cecilio says a new IP, an open world Western. I'd be very surprised, but then again, you know.
I just want it to be
Happy Feet and Surf's Up came out the same year.
In the same way that we got,
I think they even did anyway.
we got Guerrilla to do Horizon and so different from Killzone. I would love to see Sucker Punch doing something that was totally nothing like Infamous whatsoever.
Like a linear horror game or something.
Yeah,
Completely different. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Matt T. Garceau says replacements for the PlayStation Move controllers, and now we can use them to do massive damage to giant enemy crabs in VR. And Tyler Hayes says a new piece of VR hardware. I feel like they kind of dug themselves in pretty deep already.
Yeah.
With,
It's too soon, yeah.
Yeah, like I have there's that Farpoint gun, and it's like I have 2 games I can use it for, and one of them scares me too much. The other one's too hard. So like, I got this big giant, yogurt covered pretzel in my living room.
If that's what he means by a new piece of VR hardware, then maybe something like
New
that gun grip.
controllers?
Yeah.
Yeah, but
no,
then-
I mean not new controllers. Like I still think it'll use the Move, but I'm just saying like something like the gun grip for Far Cry, stuff like that. I think is possible.
Sure, yeah. I think you have to always worry about like splitting the user base, and people just bought a bunch of Move controllers 3 or 4 months ago. I ended up getting one like used from GameSpot or GameStop. I'm sure if I walked up the street, I could steal a bunch of old Move controllers. That's a crime.
Take that, Mike Marty.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. Maybe I'm into the idea of it, but I want it to be something that you're buying into something that will get substantial use. They just launched the new VR controller, so. We'll see where that one goes.
Scoffin Steven says Moon Knight will be in the Spider-Man game. This is super interesting because I've been saying, well, I kind of gave up on saying it, but I thought for a while that like we always saw big Marvel characters, and you get some of them on Netflix, you get some of them in movies, you get some of them kind of like showing up at different places. But Moon Knight was kind of like they don't do anything with him, and he's kind of like super powered, like kick-ass Batman. So like, what is he? If he makes sense as a video game character,
Do you think?
But
I mean that costume that they showed is so. Is there a picture of? No, there's sometimes a picture of him over there. That costume's so different than anything we've seen before. Do you think this is? I mean, you know more about comics than I do. Do you think is it Peter Parker? Is this like a whole new thing? Like, I assume it's completely separate from MCU. I think they've said, but like, I would love to see them do something really weird and off the wall.
Dude, Sony, aside from just the video game side of things, Sony is like all over the place with Spider-Man because they're like, we've got a new one coming out. It's partner with the MCU, but we're also building our own separate Spider-Verse, and also they're making an animated Spider-Man movie. But then again, here's a video game, and it's like, what is?
We're also making a Craven film, and it's part of the DCU.
What a tangled web. Yeah. Anyway, Jason Momoa stars as the Craven of the Sea.
Leaked Namor nudes on Instagram.
And then a ton of people, Byron B 1986, Hybrid Gamer Guy, Jake J343, Jose Bernal, and Sean Clerkin all say Spyro.
Yeah.
Whether it's a trilogy, a remaster, or whatever.
I mean, we've seen, we just judging by traffic on IGN and on our YouTube especially, like the crash footage does so well.
And it's just like clearly,
well.
if
I think that's what they're looking up.
if you look at Sony and Activision right now, between the Destiny deal and the Call of Duty deal and Crash Bandicoot, like
In Spyro,
I have no doubt that they would want to work together and do a Spyro. Like, especially because Crash seems to be really well received, like Marty was saying. Like, I think this is totally a no-brainer.
That's Insomniac, which is still like a, obviously a close partner with Sony.
Yep.
It's also interesting because that was what launched Skylanders. Like that was Spyro's adventure, and then Skylanders is kind of petering out, and they've also moved far away from having Spyro even remotely attached to it.
Those 3 Spyro PS1 games were the precursors to Ratchet and Clank.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think this is kind of what I meant with backwards kind of compatibility earlier is like if you're cherry picking like some of the most beloved games and then giving them like a loving remaster.
We saw PSX with Parappa and Wipeout. And
Loco Roco,
Midgard Dream says Death Stranding is actually the code name and concept art for a new Spyro game, post-apocalyptic third-person or dragon RPG. Yeah, that's a prediction.
I like
that's
that.
The problem with Phantom Pain. It was like ever since he revealed a fake game under a fake name that was really Metal Gear. Now I'm like, I mean, I want to say no, this isn't going to happen, but maybe.
Well, also, I'm kind of worried. I'm like, is this Death Stranding?
Yeah.
Like, I made that behind the scenes. We did a behind the scenes piece on the Kojima's new studio. Was that Death Stranding? Did I do that?
It
Or
might
like
have been.
with the
Maybe
lobster,
this
the
is Death
controller.
I
Stranding.
know.
right
That's
now.
why I'm worried.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What if we're the Normans?
I think the crabs are magic.
Yeah. I agree. Most crabs are magic, though.
What
That's
did
not
you
what I
wait?
wanted to
What
hear
was
this
your
first date?
what was your prediction of that? Mads Mikkelsen is your health bar.
Yeah. They tweeted that out, by the way, from the official Death Stranding. So I think I'm onto something. It's called
right.
game journalism.
Yeah, look it up.
Learn to read.
Hey, you're the person who's gonna abandon us during E3 because they show Bloodborne.
Yeah, I'm gonna go home and go to my shrine with the little men and
Wow,
the
it's
arms
a
go,
rocking chair made out of
"Ba-da-da-da."
skeletons and it shoots blood at you. I gotta go. Like, what? All right. JSD Amos says a bunch of games with no timetable of coming out that hit a nostalgia button and cause people to hit hysteria about a tech demo.
Ooh,
Wow,
he's getting
that's a
that
solid
Twitter
story,
snark
yeah.
ready.
I mean, to be fair, that's
He's ready.
We've seen
He's
it
ready.
before.
Guess what we get?
I like this is my favorite prediction of all. Connor Bennett says Gran Turismo Sport will have a playable character. His name is Bill, and he really hates cars. Like, I love the idea of just, I mean, no pun intended, them just jerking the wheel and being like, people love Gran Turismo because it's the most realistic driving simulator. But what if it was about a man who did not like cars one bit and he had to learn to overcome his hatred?
Or
of
it was like Bill, like he had like a minor like traffic violation, like he did like jaywalking, and his punishment is that he's locked in a car.
I was
There's
gonna
automatic
say.
driving, so like we
Yeah.
are the drivers, and Bill just has to sit behind the wheel. Like I'm really not enjoying this guy.
Like he's locked in, he can't get out. And he's like, all right, forget it. I'll win the race anyway.
Yeah.
It's me, Bill. I hate cars.
Anyway, those are that's it. That's our E3 predictions episode. Thank you all for joining us. Yeah, like I said, follow us all on Twitter: Max Scoville, Agent Bizzle, Garfep, and McBiggity, and of course, keep an eye on just IGN on Twitter and on Twitter in general, and also subscribe to us on YouTube.com/IGN Beyond. Please do that. And of course, if you want to speculate about what is coming our way, hop over to the Facebook group, which is facebook.com/groups/podcastbeyond, and make some friends over there. And you guys can argue about whether or not Death Stranding is Ape Escape.
Yeah.
Is it? No. It's not.
It's not.
Anyway,
and
we
come
don't know
back in
that
a week
yet.
to see how well these predictions aged like old milk.
They didn't. But check out E3 starts on IGN and on Twitter and YouTube and everywhere and Twitch at 11 a.m. Pacific time on Saturday.
Yeah.
And runs all the way to the end of the day Thursday, and then we die.
Yeah, and we've got just keep an eye on all of our various social media streams to find out when stuff is happening and what it's going to be. On that note, Beyond and E3.
And I'd like to announce that Andrew Goldfarb will be getting a rose at the end of this episode.
What the hell was that?
What was that laugh?